time somehow. Okay. So we had finished the Sankara Bhashya on the verse number 48, and there was a long discussion in it. The verse was simple. Sahajam karma kauntiya sadosam apinat tyajeta sarva rambha hi doshena dhuminagni riva britaha. So it's quite possible, especially that if you're doing any kind of activities based on your location in life, your socio-historical, your social station, your liking, your disliking, which is essentially a manifestation of the kind of gunas which are there, which have become avivyakta, they have become expressed, they have become visible in this life. Continue with it, and when this whole prakriya sort of leads to antakarna suddhi, and then you are sort of ready for taking a plunge into the jnana sadhana. And when that starts, you have vairagya and you take the vividisa sannyasa after a lot of karma and upasanas, then things will fall to place. You don't have to sort of jump the queue. It doesn't work. That's what he said. And there was a lot of discussion in the rejection of what is that kriya and the whole cause effect relationship, the causal relationship, as you call it in philosophy. Logically, it was refuted. The Arambhavada of the Nyayayikas, the Nyaya school of thought, we are also Vaishesikas, they share same platform. That Karya is a new thing which is being produced, and he refutes that because he refers to the verse number 16 of the chapter second. Nasuto vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha. The sat can never be absent, the real can never become non existent, and what is unreal can never be argued to ever exist. Having argued like this, he refuted even the Satkaryavadis, because Satkaryavadis of the Parinamavada school, the Sankhya people, also say there's some sort of a metamorphosis. But when you do have metamorphosis, where are the gunas coming from? So the qualities of ghee is coming out of milk, that is fine. But where is this gheeness coming from? That's also again a new thing. So he says even the Sankhya people will also be rejected. And then summarily, he also rejected the Buddhists, saying that for them, it's kind of a very inconclusive argument. He said that there is no karma tyaga even at all possible in case of the Buddhists, because for them, the kriya itself is karaka. They don't think about a separate agency, everything, sarvam vijnanam. So that kind of a thing, he refuses that. Now we are quickly going to finish what Madhusudana Saraswati says about the same thing. He's a great simplifier here. And then we'll move forward with Madhusudana Saraswati today for the next 4-5 verses. And then we'll take it up. The Sankara Bhashya, we'll try to finish about 4-5 verses today from Madhusudana Saraswati. And then we'll look at Shankara Bhashya. It's often, much of it may be a little repetition, so we'll avoid it. Otherwise, you will pay attention to whatever new points are being mentioned there. He Kauntiya Sahajam Swabhavajam Karma Sadosam Api Bihita Hinsa Yuktam Api. Why this Saudosham? Because in some of the Vaidika karmas, there is some Pasu Alavana Kriya, like in Agnishwamiya, Yotishtamadi. So Yotishtama, Yuddhadi not Tyajet, because now Yuthishtama, you can do Rajasvi or Yajna, the Kshatriyas have a right, and there maybe there's some Pasu Alavana problem is there. Now, in case of Yuddha, the war in which as a Kshatriya are supposed to engage to protect your country, there'll be some violence, so somebody is going to die. Now, Tyajet, don't drop it. Why? Because Antakarna Suddhe Prag, because before your Antakarna Suddhi has happened, he has explained earlier all that. Arurakyar Munir Yoga, Karma Karana Muchyate. So you have to do this karma thing. Then you are ready because you are an aspiring student of yoga and jnana yoga. You are not yet there. So Bhavan Anyova. So you should neither you or Arjuna or anyone else. Nahi anatmagyaha kaschit kyanam api karmani akritva statum sakunoti. A person who is still anatmagya, that means he is not atmagya, he is not yet there, he is still an aspirant. He has to do all this coursework in the form of nishkama karma with Ishwararabha buddhi. Nacha paradharman anutishtan api dosan muchyate. If you do somebody else's thing, there will be also dosas of that. And he has already explained that even if you doing your own duty and there are certain vaigunya dosha, it is not sufficient. You're not doing it in a comprehensive manner. There are some shortfalls. That's easy to forgive. It's like a batsman, he knows a few shots. He's a test batsman. And he doesn't want to be a T20 batsman. He's playing his cricket. He's a test batsman. He's steady. He's straightforward. He doesn't know many shots, but he sticks to his own guns. It's quite possible that he may not be able to score as many runs as the guy who plays T20 cricket can. Yet this guy is so well established in his game that couple of shortfalls, he doesn't take any risk because his game permits him to play in a certain fashion. And that has to be forgiven because he has the additional virtue of standing and sticking to the crease and holding his wicket, because that is more important in test cricket, isn't it? Similarly, the kind of games footballers play in the club football matches and the kind of games they play in, if you look at the international, the World Cups and all, are slightly different because they want to steady their defense much more than in case of club matches, because they're, maybe very similar, because it's not like cricket. In different time scales you have different strategies. Like, for example, urban warfare is different from the war that you need when you are having a normal war. Once you enter the city, the game changes because you don't know who is your enemy. In case of a desert, in case of a plain area, agricultural fields, you know who is your enemy. You can shoot at them. When once in a city, who is a civilian, who is an enemy, who is a combatant, and who is a non-combatant, you do not know. The game changes. Now he's saying, even if you may commit a few errors of judgment while doing your own karma, you're in a much better position. First thing, to compensate for it. Number two, that's forgiven. Because you will do all of the things perfectly well, Bhagavan says. You pick up somebody else's dharma, you don't know ABC of it. You will not be able to do the basics right. Sarvarambha swadharmaha paradharmasha. Any activity, these are all, whatever are initiated with certain goal, kamya or whatever. Sarvehi yasma doshena trigunatmakatvena. Because all, whenever you are trying to do anything, you have that kartritva and bhoktritva. You want to do something, you get some results. And once you have that sort of a mental platform which you are starting this game of karma, this is all sattva, tamas, and rajas. They are essentially playing through you. They guide what's the ahankara in you. They guide, they influence. They, in a way, constitute your mental framework with which you are going to do anything. So that particular thing is there, and therefore they are not perfect. So there'll be some dosha of the other. Samanyena abrata vyaptaha so dosa eva. And therefore, they are all the time sort of. The whole question is, once something is trigunatmaka, it's different from purusha. So it's definitely different from that ultimate truth which you are aspiring to understand, be there. All of the things are intermediate stages, and therefore they cannot be perfect. And there'll be some sort of a. Otherwise, what will be the need for moksha actually? There's no need for self realization. We can be happy here, and we can be jolly well as good, as bad as anyone else. Now, Tathacha prag vyakhyatam, even before that, this has been said, parinama mata, parinama tapa, parinama tapa sanskarehi gunabhrittir virodhacha dukkham eva sarvam vivekinaha. So this is Yoga Sutra, isn't it? And this is already clearly mentioned, Yoga Sutra, chapter 2, in the Sutra number 15. So one is parinama. The result may be good or bad. Tapa, trividha tapa, the adhyatmika, adhivautika, adhidaivika, all these doshas, tapas, dukkhas. Then sanskara, there is some sort of a, and then sanskarehi guna vritti virodhacha. And that purusha thing, and the guna vrittis, trigunatmika vrittis that we have, the mind. So because Yoga Sutra says what? Abhyasa vairagya bhyam tan nirodha. Why? Because yoga chitta vritti nirodha. And why you want to do it? Because you want to be established in Purusha. Because Yoga Shastra, we have already discussed, relies largely on the metaphysics of the Sankhya's. Now, the Purusha is different. The rest of it is Prakriti, and there's a process going on. We are trapped here because of our identification. We are too much identified with all this. And Gunabhrittir Virodhacha. Virodha with what? These Gunabhrittis are contrary to the fact, the truth about that soul or the Atma, the Purusha, where once we reach, we'll get rid of all these vestiges, the contrarian orientations, distractions, which hold us back from being ourselves. That is what the Sankhya people say. Dukham eva sarvam vivekinaha. All activities, whether it is swadharma, paradharma, for the viveki, who is trying to do what? What is Purusha, what is Prakriti? He is essentially trying to distinguish the Purusha from Prakriti. All these kriyas are having something to do with Prakriti, how it unfolds in you. And therefore, there is no freedom in all this. Iti. Tasmad agatya. And therefore, what should we do? We are not yet, atmagyanas. Anatmagyaha karmani kurvan. Bisaja krimiриva visam sahajam कर्म युद्धादि त्रिगुणात्मकत्वेन सामान्येन बन्धुबद्धादि निमित्तत्वेन विशेषेण च साधुस्वमपि न त्यजेत सर्वकर्म त्याग असमर्थत्वात्. Now, somebody who is anatmagya, he hasn't reached that stage of viveka khyati. He hasn't reached that vivechana where he can actually get rid of these satyatva buddhi which he has about this sansara. Mithyatva nishchaya hasn't happened. Therefore, that badhita vritti, that he will see everything as Brahman, or he even sees this whole process of phenomenal reality, he is not too much bothered about it. He hasn't reached there. So what should he do? He should do whatever karma he is doing, nishkama karma. He should do it. And even if he does sakama karma, no problem. He has to orient himself. Instead of being tamasika, he has to be rajasika and sattvic and gradually ascend the staircase of spiritual journey towards oneself. Therefore, there could be certain things, samanyana dosha yukta and visheshana yoga yukta. You are doing a kame karma, you are doing any yajna and other things. There could be some ritual sacrifice. If you are doing this karya like your profession, like you are a soldier, you are a policeman, you may have to shoot at somebody, right? So all these problems are there. So you have to do it without any problems. Visheshana dosha api na tyajeet. Even if there are special problems like this war you are doing, because sarva karma tyaga asamarthatvat, because he hasn't reached a state, as we discussed in chapter 5, that sarva karma sannyasa happens only when somebody has established himself in tattva or tattva viveka. What is nitya nitya viveka? He has perfected it, and he's satka sampatti samparna. Then he can go, that adhikara, he has all the adhikara for the jnana yuga, then he can move forward. Sarva karma tyaga samarthastu. However, somebody who has reached that level, Suddha antakaranasya, and that his antakarana is already, is very Suddha antakarana. Tyajet eva iti abhipraya. He can actually dump everything because he's already a jnani there. Okay. Ka puna sarva karma tyaga samartha. This student will ask, okay, sir, tell me, who is this guy who can take sannyasa? Yo nitya nitya vastu viveka zena, that particular jnana born out of this nitya nitya vastu viveka. What is real, what is unreal? He has been doing analysis, out of which has developed a certain understanding of what to care for, what to ignore. Okay, viveka zena iha mutra phala bhoga vairagyena. Bhoga vairagyena. Artha bhoga, phala bhoga, whatever is same. So he's not interested in either having the amusmika phalabhoga swarga sukha or having putreshana, viteshana, lokeshana here, having a very good son, having a good wife and children and lokeshana and all these lokas he'll go, and having a lot of wealth he's not interested. Sabadamadi sampannaha. So samadamadi satka sampatti sampannaha. He has these qualities of internal self-control. Karmajam siddhim asuddhi parichaya dwara mumukshuhu. Now, what happens is that there is karmajam siddhim. What is that siddhi? He gets that antakarana siddhi. And what is that antakarana siddhi? He's saying asuddhi parichaya dwara. There is a thinning down of the wrong impressions which we have carried forward from our previous lives and this life. Bad sanskaras, bad tendencies and habits, they sort of wear off. It's like we have a habit of getting up late, and then you join a course where you have to wake up every day 4 o'clock. You have to do some online, you have to attend some classes or meetings very early morning. You have to get up early. So these bad habits which are inherited, they wear off, they fade into oblivion. And that happens through the yoga, this whole yoga thing. Dvara mumukshuhu suddha brahmahatmikya jigyasam prapta. Then he gets that interest. What is that? He gets that tattvamasi vakya and hears a lot of these Bhagavad Gita sentences in chapter 13 and 9 and in 7th also. There are certain places where Bhagavan all the time is giving why this whole thing is one and the only thing, even though the whole Vyavahara Kala at which we see things is different from one another. Jigyasa Prapta Saha Swa Ishta Moksha Hetu. And then what is he interested in? He wants to get out of this place. He's no more interested. Brahmatmikya Jnana Sadhana. And then how can he do it? He has to do something so that he can get that Brahmatmikya Jnana. He has heard about it, Tattvamasi. Then he has to do Chintana. What is that sadhana? What is the means to reach there? Vedanta Vakya Sravanadi. Shastra says that once you have heard, there is a trailer. The teacher says, you can get rid of it, but you have to understand this whole Vedanta thing. Then he starts joining a satsang. Vedanta Vakya Sravanati Kartum. In order to do that, Sarva Vikshepa Nibritya, but if there are distractions, he cannot do it. So he goes back to his drawing room, just goes back to his drawing board and looks at what are the pros and cons of it, what are the strengths and weaknesses he has. He has to do Sarva Viksheva Nibritya. He stops all distractions, drops everything. Tat Sesa Bhutam, what remains? There is one activity to be done. He has to do a ritualized sannyasa, the way it is prescribed in the Shastras. Sarvakarava sannyasam Shruti Smriti Vihitam Kuryadeva. Then he takes sannyasa. He's ready for it. And then the problem is that he cannot go and meet his wife anymore. The Shastra says he can only meet his mother. Interestingly, he will only touch the feet of his mother and teacher. Poor father is ignored. Okay, he has no relevance in the life of a sannyasi. Only mother, you will touch her feet. That's what Sankaracharya has said. Poor father, he may have spent a lot of money educating you in the Shastras. No, he has no role. Of course, you will respect him, but only Acharya and mother. And then you cannot go stay in, you can stay. Things are becoming very liberal these days. But truth of the matter is, the traditional sannyasis, I have heard when I was a little child, and I was told the stories. The rule was, even in a place like Orissa, I have heard this, that during the thread ceremony, if the boy crossed those three lines, and he will be sent out because he's a sannyasi, he cannot be kept at home. And the rule was that if he comes or returns, the child may just run away from that ashram and come back. Then he'll go and stay in the nearest temple those days. There was one guy, I think, who crossed those three lines and he was not entertained at home, so he had to be kept at a temple. And if he comes home, they'll hold a dhuti so that he cannot see his mother or sister. Because for a child who is about 10, 12 years old, and suddenly he by mistake he has taken sannyasi, crossed those three lines. He can't come back. Very rude social arrangement. So he cannot see his mother and sister because they're very attractive for him. They are the emotional linkage between him and his family. So he has to talk to them with a cloth, so he cannot see them. Then he'll go away from there. Very rude, right? Now things have changed. They become a little more inclusive, a bit liberal. Okay. Earlier, even women were not given sannyas. Now they are being given sannyas. So whatever is the Smriti Vihitam Kuryadeva, but this is meant for Vividisa Sannyasa. And there are several Sannyasa Upanishads. And after consulting a lot of them, I found out that there is no particular Vidhi. So you have the Abhadhuta Sannyasis, they don't follow any rules. There are Dandi Sannyasis who are much more rigid. And there are Paramahansa Sannyasis in between the Abhadhuta and the other Vividisa Sannyasis. The Paramahansas are liberal, but the Abhadhutas absolutely don't follow any rules or regulations because they are completely at a very high level. And the Bidva sannyasis don't have to even take their clothes and stuff like that. And there are also sannyasis who are grihasthas, they are about to die, so they quickly take an initiation. And so they're kind of artha sannyasis. Out of desperation, they're quickly taking that sannyasa because they might die, so they want to retain an opportunity for practicing the sannyasa sadhana in next birth because they have read the text. So there are so many texts, and there's so much of discussion and different. There are several yoga Upanishads, okay, and there are different kind of things that are mentioned there. Satyanrite sukha dukhe Vedan imam lokam amumcha parityajya atmanam anvichediti. Then he's saying, Tasmat evam with the guy who knows the Atma in such a way, Santo, Dantaha, Uparataha, Titikshu. This guy is Santa, he's controlled his mind, Dantaha controlled his senses, Uparataha, he has withdrawn, Titikshu, he has having that patience, Dvanda Sahanam, Samahitaha, he's completely balanced, equanimous, Bhutva, by being this, Atmani eva Atmanam Pashyat. You reach the self by the self. What does it mean actually? Atmani Atmanam Pashyat. So, in your mind, constantly you're meditating on it to be self realized, be one with it. Satyanrite Sukha Dukhe, truth and falsehood, happiness and sadness. Vedan imam lokam amam cha parityajya. So this life and afterlife, everything he said. Atmanam anvichet. He aspires only for this self-knowledge. Smritescha. Uparataha tyakta sarva karma. What do you mean by uparataha? He has withdrawn. What does it mean? Tyakta sarva karma. He has done tyaga of all the karmas. Bhutva atmanam pasyed. Atma darsanaya. You have self-realization to know the self. Swa karmana Ishwaram Aradhya. So in the beginning, Swakarmana Ishwaram Aradhya Tat Prasadajam. So when we do this karma and we do have that Ishwararpana Buddhi surrendered at his feet, then because of his kindness, Tat Prasadajam Sarva Karma Tyaga Paryantam Jnanotpatti Yogyata Rupam Siddhim Antakarna Suddhim Prapto Yatha Brahma Prapnoti Yena Prakarena Suddham Atmanam Sakhyat Karoti Tathatam Prakaram Nivodhame. I think I missed one sentence. Yeah. So Bhutva Atmanam Pasyat Atma Darsanaya Vedanta Vakyani Vichare Iti Sutyarthaha. So what do you do? Atmani Atmanam Pasyat. You study the Upanishads, meditate on them, Evu Sravana Manana Nididhyasana. Etadrisa Eva Brahma Sangsto Amritatvam Eti Iti Sritya Dharma Skandatraya Bilakshana Tvena Pratipaditaha Paramahansa Parivrajakaha Paramahansa Parivrajakam Kritakrityam Gurumapasritya Vedanta Vakya Vichara Samartho Yam Uddishya Athato Brahma Jigyasa Ityadi Chaturlakshanam Mimangsa Bhagavata Vadarayaya Samarambhi. So what he's saying is like this. Etadrisa eva Brahma Sangsto. Once you are established in that, I want to know what is the Atma. All the time you are that Atma Pravana. Amritattva meti he gets, once reaching that, he gets immortality. That means he'll not come back. He'll not be reborn here. It doesn't mean that he'll remain young and handsome for all time to come. Sritya. Dharma skanda traya vilakshanatvena. What are the dharma skanda three? One thing is that if you have a grihastha, what is the dharma skanda there? Three dharma skanda is jagya, dana, and adhyayana. That is for the grihasthas. Brahmacharis, brahmacharya, dharana purvaka, guru upasadanam. They'll stay in their ashrama study, and then the vanaprastha, they will do a lot of tapas. So these are the dharma skanda traya. The sannyasi just one step ahead, he'll drop all this now. He'll be a sarva karma sannyasi, and then no rituals for him. He can do something as a matter of habit, but even Gayatri Japa he'll not do. There is a Paramahansa Gayatri he'll do. And he doesn't have the thread, so he cannot do any karma. He cannot sit any puja. No, now in the Ramakrishna Parampara and all, they do some tantric pujas. They follow the Agama Sastras. Vaidika pujas, sankalpas, they cannot do. They have no adhikara to sit in a yajna or anything. The Ramakrishna Parampara, they have the Kali puja and all, they do it. Because they are all doing Niskama Sankalpa, number one. Number two, they follow the Agamas. Vaidika, they have no adhikara, nobody can do it. So therefore, no yajnas, nothing. They always bring in Haridwar and all of the places, ashrams, do a Vishwasanti yajna or something. They look for a grihastha or a brahmachari. But there are certain yajnas where you need a married person. His wife has to look at the ghee, and there are certain rituals where she has a role in purifying, sanctifying the whole process. She's an approving authority. Therefore, they look for a married person. Others don't have any adhikara. Brahmacharis have adhikara to certain karmas, not all. So Dharmaskandatraya Vilakshanatvena. What is that? That sannyasa thing. Pratipaditaha Paramahansa Parivrajakaha. So that person is going to become a Paramahansa sannyasi. And what he will do after taking sannyasa diksha, he'll go to another Paramahansa Paribrajakam. So he'll go to another sannyasi. Krita Krityam, he has already studied and he's already self-realized. Gurum Upasritya, he'll go and he'll listen to it. What will he listen? Vedanta Vakya Vichara Samartho. यम उद्देश्य एंड देन ही विल गो एंड दैट टीचर वो क्या पढ़ाएंगे अथातो ब्रह्म जिज्ञासा इत्यादि चतुर्लक्षण मीमांसा चतुर्लक्षण मीन्स चतुर अध्याय देयर आर 4 chapters in it in Brahma Sutras. The first sutra is Athato Brahma Jigyasa. There's a bit of controversy as to how many sutras are there. Shankaracharya makes it 555. I think somebody makes it 542. Somebody makes it 567. They are breaking the sutras here and there, but the standard is 555. Shankaracharya has made it like that in interpretation. Bhagavata Vadarayena Samarampi. So they start studying. So he has already done the study of Upanishads. He's getting into Samanvaya. How to, because certain statements appear to be contradictory with each other. Brahma Sutra resolves these apparent contradictions. So he studies that. And then Kidruso Aso Ityaha. What is that? What is that method? वो साधना का प्रकार क्या है? Obviously, he's very curious. So Bhagavan is explaining to Arjuna in the verse number 49. Asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigata spriha naiskarmya siddhim paramam sanyasena dhigachati. Asakta buddhi. So his mind, his whole thinking thing, how is it like? Is he having any raga, dvesha, any attachment? No. Asakta. Sa here is not talabya sa, it's a danta sa. Asakta means he's free from all bondage, all chains. His mind is kind of free. Okay, free from craving. And then sarvatra asakta buddhi jitatma. Atma here is mind. So he has won over his mind, his manas is in his control. He's a jitatma. And a vigata sprihaha is a bidhyatma, means his mind always following what should be done. He's a bidhyatma. So his mind doesn't cheat. His mind does what exactly is supposed to do. There's a beautiful statement by Laozi. He says somewhere that at 20 I heard what is the right path and I struggled, and at 50 I was largely successful. But at 70 I found that my mind never delved into anything which would have violated the moral code of conduct. Forget about forget about behavior. His mind will never trespass. He's a perfect vidyatma at that moment. So that is jitatma. Bigata sprihaha. And how he manages these two things? Because he has no more any craving. There is no spriha, no trishna, nothing to achieve. His direction has changed. And then what does he get? He gets sannyasena adhigachati. Kim adhigachati? Naiskarima siddhim. Paramam naiskarima siddhim adhigachati. He's free from all bondage of karma. So first he said, कोई भी काम को छोड़ना नहीं, आपको करना होगा. Next verse में कह रहे हैं, जो पास कर चुके हैं कोर्स वर्क में, they can do their PhD, no more examinations. That's what he's saying. सर्वद्र पुत्र दारादिषु sakti nimiteshu api. So wherever there is a need for an attachment, son, wife, no, children, asakta buddhi aham esam. And these people, they are aham esam mama ete. This kind of buddhi doesn't have. I'm supposed to. I belong to them, and they are mine. They belong to me. She's my wife. She's my daughter. He's my child. They are my parents. Those sort of things. And I am her husband, so I need to care for her. This kind of thing. She's my wife, possession, and I belong to her, dutifulness. So I need to care for her. Either way, there is bondage, isn't it? Ahankara, mamakara, and asakta buddhi aham esa mama ete iti aviswanga rahita. So earlier he has mentioned anaviswanga. So that is what he's saying here. Buddhir yasya saha asakta buddhi. That fellow is, I mean, he's a person with a mind free from all attachments. Yato jitatma. Why? Because he's in control of his mind. Visayabhyaha pratyahritya vasikritanta karanaha. He has controlled his antakarana. He's a master of his mind. He's not a slave of his mind. Visayabhyaha, all the external objects he can see. He can walk into the best of malls in the world and come back without spending a penny. He's relaxed. You say, let's go to the mall, he'll go. And would like to buy anything? No. He'll look at a lot of things. He might also look at books and this and that, but he'll not trouble anyone. He'll not buy anything because he actually has nothing to take. Okay. Bisya rage sati katham pratyaharanam tatraha vigata spriha. But he's saying, but doesn't he have any craving or a desire? Um, how is it possible? Because he's vigata spriha, has no more any kind of craving. Deha jivita bhogeshu api bancha rahitaha. Even for holding his body, I want to live a little longer. He doesn't have that. Happens to live, he is not bothered. He welcomes it. He doesn't have any problem. If he knows he's going to die, he doesn't cease to smile. He continues to smile. Sarva drishyeshu dosha darshanena. He does the dosha darshana. There is something called sobhana adhyasa. That the attachment starts. So if you find there's a cell phone and there's some advertisement, it says it can do X, Y, Z. And the moment you say maybe this is going to be useful for me for my professional work, I'd like to look at it. So would you like to look at it? Shobhanadhyasa, curiosity starts. Then you are caught. They'll sell it to you. The marketing guy has done his job. Similarly, so this guy is Sarva Dusheshu Dosha Darsana, and he does the opposite. He's the marketing man who is trying to sell the truth that only self is true, everything else is false. It's a different kind of reverse marketing. So he says, no, but what's wrong with it? Is it going to give me help or this and that? So he rejects everything. Nitya Bodha Paramananda Rupa Moksha Guna Darshanena. What is he marketing to himself? He is marketing that Paramananda Atma Swarupa. Tasya eva guna darshanena. He sees value in only meditating on the self, and therefore he's not interested in anything. Cha sarvatah virakta ityarthaha. And therefore he's not anurakta, he's always virakta, he's detached. Ya evam suddha antakaranaha. A person who is antakarana is pure like this. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya siddhim bindanti manabha. Bhagavana said it earlier. So he has done his own karma and he has always praised the Lord. He has got the blessings and therefore he has got that siddhi. Now he is that kind of a siddha. Iti bachana pratipaditam. This is what Bhagavan has said earlier. Karmajam aparam siddhim jnana sadhana vedanta vakya vichara adhikara lakshana. What is aparama siddhi? He gets jnana yogyata through karma sadhana. What kind of karma? Nishkama karma yoga plus ishwararpana buddhi. So that is the aparama lakshana. That is not para. That is the intermediate stage, that abantara stage. He clears it, that intermediate stage. Lakshana jnana nishta yogyatam praptaha. So he has reached that stage, he's finished his coursework. Saha, that particular yogi, sannyasena, शिक्षा यज्ञोपवीतादि सहित सर्वकर्म त्यागेन हेतुना तत्पूर्वकेन विचारेण इत्यर्थः. So what does he do? He goes to the guru and takes his permission. He takes sarvakarma sannyasi. Then what does he do? Shikha, this whole thing, that hair, he'll tonsure his head, yajñopavitadi, and all of the things, his clothes and everything. This whole process is that in the midnight they go to Ganga and there is a Viraja Homa, which is they happen in the morning. First they will do their own Shraddha, do Pitru Tarpana, everything. They'll give Tarpana to himself also because there will be nobody to do his Shraddha and Tarpana. And then he'll do Gayatri Mantra, preferably in a cow shed, because so that the Pitris and the Devatas cannot disturb, the Gomata protects them. And then there is a Viraja Homa in the evening, 2 o'clock in the night. They go to the Ganges and they throw their clothes and they're born for the third time, completely naked. They have to throw everything and they walk in the northerly direction. When the Acharya is there, a few feet ahead, and when he reaches there, he gives a kopani to him. He has to take a bath, throw his clothes, his sikha is cut, chopped, and then he Jagyapavita, he sacrifices the Mother Ganga and he walks forward, and then he's born for the last time because he's not going to be reborn again. That's his aspiration. Moves forward, the Acharya, then he raises his hand and says, I'm blessing everyone. I'm giving Abhaya because I'm not going to indulge in anything. I'm not going to harm anyone. The teacher gives him a small Kaupanivantam, Kalavidyavantam. He gives it to him, Kalabhagyavantam. He wears it. Then he comes and he takes his mantra from the gurus next morning, and then he's a new person. I mean, that is what they say, the whole process. So that is what he say, Hetuna tat purvakena, sannyasa purvakena, vicharena ityartha. Then this Atma Jnana, he continues his vichara. Naiskarma siddhim. What is Naiskarma siddhi? A lot of people have interpreted in different ways. Naiskarma is Brahma, Nishkarma. He doesn't have any karma, Niskriya Nirvikara. Tad Vishayam, Brahma Vishayam, Vichara Parinispannam Jnanam. That Brahma Vishayaka Parinispannam means there is no queries, no more any gaps. Okay? Jnanam. That is Naiskarmya Tad Rupam Siddhim. That kind of Siddhi. That means ultimate Jnana Siddhi. Paramam Karmajaya Aparama Siddhe Falabhutam Adhigachati. So he first Aparama Siddhi is that Jnana Yogita he gets, then he moves towards the Naiskarmya Siddhim. Sadhana paripakena prapnoti. So he perfects his sadhana, he matures and reaches that stage. That's what is explained here. Athava sannyasena iti itham bhuta lakhyani tritiya sannyasena. Itham bhuta lakhyani tritiya sarva karma sannyas rupam naiskarma siddhim brahma sakshatkara yogyatam naigunya lakhyanam siddhim paramam purvasyaha siddhehe satvikyaha phalabhutam adhigacchati ityartha. Otherwise, he's saying is that very stage of that sannyasi, because it's not Trigunatmika anymore, he is going to have the Brahma Jnana. That particular stage, that particular Jnana Yogyata, after which he becomes in a state where he can dump everything and continue to meditate on the self, that also can be called Naiskarma Siddhi. There are other people who will look at the other interpretations. Brahma, Sankaracharya says one thing, that he becomes Brahmavid. That is one interpretation. There are other people who look at it tomorrow when we are looking at Sankarabhasya and others. Pragukta sadhana sampannasya sarvakarma sannyasinaha brahma jnana utpato sadhana kramam aha. Now he will do the sadhana for Brahma jnana. But what is the process? What is the stages? What are the different levels? He has to go from one level to the other, and that is mentioned in the next verse. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tatapnoti nibodhame samase neva kaunteya nishta jnanasya ya para. Then he is saying that yatha brahma siddhim praptah. Okay, the way yatha brahma siddhi praptah yatha apnoti tatha nibodhame, I'm explaining to you. Samasena eva, I'm summarily doing it. I'm not going into great lengths. I have already given you a long lecture so far. This is the concluding chapter. Hey Kaunteya, Jnanasya nishta ya para. What is that para nishta, ultimate thing? That I'm going to give you the secrets here. That is what it's saying. So the person who is siddhi praptaha, first thing is, who is the agent here? He is having that Naiskarma siddhim. Siddhim praptaha yaha purushaha saha yatha brahma apnoti. The way he gets the Brahma siddhi or gets the Brahma jnana. Tatha nibodhame. Listen to me. I'll explain it to you. Samasena eva. I'll just briefly mention it to you. What shall I talk about? Jnanasya ya paranishta. What is the ultimate secret of reaching that Brahma Jnana? That is what he mentions. Let's look at how he explains it. Swakarmana Ishwaram Aradhya. So first stage, what? We'll have to do our own karmas. Don't have karma tyaga. Do it if you are anatmagya, intermediate stage. Aradhya Tat Prasadajam. As a result of that Nishkama Karma Yoga and Ishwararpana Buddhi and Upasanas, Sarva Karma Tyaga Paryantam. Then you have that Naiskarma Siddhi, then you have a Sarva Karma Sannyas opportunity because you have finished all these processes. Jnanotpatti Yogyata Rupam. And therefore, you have the qualification for meditating on the self and you can have Jnanotpatti. There is nothing called Jnanotpatti, it's Svata Siddha. This is all just a Sabda Vyavahara. It's actually Ajnana Nibriti. That is Jnanotpatti. Jnanotpatti Yogyata Rupam Siddhim. And what is that Siddhi? Antakarna Suddhim Praptaha. He has got a pure mind. He has purified his mind, So he reaches there. Yatha Brahma Prapnoti. The way he gets that Brahma Jnana, self-realization, Yena Prakarena Suddhatmanam Sakshat Karoti Tyartha. जैसे उसका आत्म साक्षात्कार होता है तथा तम प्रकारम निबोधमे मदवचनात् avadharayan अनुष्ठातुम. So you will do the practice, right? So listen to the tips I'm going to give you how to reach there, how he manages to reach there. Of course, Arjuna is not yet ready, but he just is giving him a kind of a trailer. He's just mentioning it very briefly so that he has this curiosity that I'm not wasting my time. He has a positive picture where he's going to be there after he concludes his own karma paryaya in his life. Kim Ativistarena na ityaha. So, he's saying very briefly, he's not going to go on giving a very long lecture. Samasena sanchipena eva natu vistarena he kaunteya. I'm not going to waste much of your time. You have already listened to me over last several chapters. I'm going to give you certain conclusive takeaway points. Tad avadharana kim syat. So if I understand that, what benefit I'm going to get? That prayojana, right? All the time you have to tell the phala. What if you do this course? Where are you going to get an appointment? That's how they advertise the new courses. So what will I get there? Nishta jnanasya yapara. If you understand it, you will get the top secret of that paranishta. What is the ultimate practice doing which you can be there in that atma sakshatakara? That is explaining. Jnanasya vichara parinispannasya nishta. That ultimate parinispanna jnanasya nishta. Parisamaptihi paranishta. That is the final thing. You don't have to do anything. There shall be nothing to be done once you have done this last sadhana. Yad anantaram sadhanantaram na anushtayam asti. Aur kuch karne ka nahi reh jayega. This is the last thing. Will you be interested in doing it? That's what I'm saying. Parashreshta sarvantya ya va sakshan moksha hetutvat. And why it is called paranisha? Because it's shreshta, sarvantya, what remains in the end. Okay? Va sakshan moksha hetutvat. Once you do it, then atma sakshatkara. There is no punarjanma, no punarabriti. Tam siddhim praptasya. When he has got that naiskirma siddhi praptasya, brahma prapti rupam jnana nishtam param nishtam. That is the jnana nishta, the ultimate knowledge, that's secret. Sankshepena nibodha ityartha. So you please understand. That's what I'm saying. Now the next three verses he's putting together because he thinks that they can be actually dealt with together because they are talking about different aspects of it. The Sankaracharya and all other people have dealt with them differently, but we are today doing Madhusudana Saraswati. So we will look at all three verses together and we'll try to analyze the meaning thereof. Buddhya visuddhaya yukto dhrityatmanam niyamya cha sabdadin vishayan styaktva ragadvesau vyudasya cha. First step. Buddhya, by buddhi. What kind of buddhi? Visuddhaya. Buddhi should be pure, good, not having any stains of raga, dvesha, and sansara prakriti. Yuktaha, yoga yuktaha. Dhritya, he has great dharya, sankalpa sakti, dhriti, that we discussed already. Sattvika, rajasika, and tamasika dhriti. Dhritya, atmanam. Atmanam is not soul. No, you cannot do any niyamana of atma. Here, atmanam is antakaranam, mind. Niyamyacha. So he's Santodanta Uparatah Titikya. So that same thing. So he has controlled his mind perfectly. Savadadin Vishayan Styaktva. And then some interest in maybe good music or going to a party or some kind of sports or news or friends or anything. Sarvan Vishayan Tyaktva. So he rejects everything. Doesn't mean he's going to chop his nose and ears and all. No, he loses interest in them. He disconnects. Raga dveshu vyudasya cha. Then he does tyaga, parityaga of raga and dvesha. He's saying, no, I like it, I don't like it. This approach I'm not going to have anymore as part of my understanding, my approach, my disposition. Then what does he do? Vivikta sevi lagvasi yatabhakkaya manasaha dhyana yoga paro nityam vairagyam samupasritaha. Then vivikta sevi. Vivikta, isolation. He loves, he develops a liking because sansara ko chhod diya. He's not interested in vishaya vasana sukha. And therefore, then lagvasi, whatever little food is happy, he's practicing temperance. He's no more having that, he's not a swapaholic anymore. And yata, then yata vakaya manasaha. He does a lot of yatna. His ability to speak and his body and his mind, they're getting very seasoned. That yoga habit is sort of permeating his own individual life. You will not find any trespassing anywhere. He's kind of much in control of himself. Then what does he do? External life is getting reduced. No, but he's still very active. He's not falling asleep. He's not tamasic person. Dhyana yoga parvo nityam. Then he's having a lot of pension for doing meditation. He's not on the bed. He's doing meditation, reflecting on the self. Nityam vairagyam samupasritaha. Then he's all the time practicing that vairagya, because unless you practice vairagya, rag will come out. Why? Billions of births, and that hard disk is full of this raga dvesha. They'll again fructify. Then where does he goes? Where does he do next? Ahamkaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuchya nirmamah shanto brahma bhuyaya kalapate. Ahankaram. So that ahankara mamakara, that ego self, that he drops it. Balam. Balam is not physical thing here. Balam is that, some sort of a tendency that you have agraha, that I want to do it. He'll explain it in a particular way. Madhusudana Saraswati is saying, and we'll also see how Sankaracharya talks about balam. Darpam, when you are, you have a bit of pride. I can do it. That's basically a metamorphosis of your ego. One of the manifestations of how ego works through us is one is balam. Then kamam, you have craving, you want to do something, you want to have something, you want to taste something. Krodham, if you don't get it, you get angry. And parigraham, receiving gifts, that's a very problematic thing for a spiritual person. You got to be very careful. What is he receiving from whom? Because you never know how negative energy comes to you from gifts we receive. Bimuchya, then he says, he drops all that. And what kind of person he is? He is nirmamaha, doesn't mean cruel. Nirmama means mamata rahitaha. So he doesn't have mamakara, doesn't mean nirmama. He's doing nirmama hingsa. He's a very nirmama person, we say. Yeah, usko maya mamta kuch nahi hai. But this is used in a very positive sense. He's not very possessive about anything on earth. And then what sort of person is? Shantaha, very peaceful. Brahma bhuyaya kalapate, that kind of a person is ready now to have Brahma prapti, moksha siddhi. Let's look at how he elaborates these three verses. Visuddhaya, sarva sansaya viparjaya sunyaya. What kind of buddhi is defining? Visuddha buddhi, visuddhi. No, you know that Visuddhaya, that buddhi should be Vishuddha. Visuddhaya, sarva sansaya viparjaya sunyaya. These are the adjectives of that buddhi. There is no doubt and there is no mithya jnana. There is no sansaya, no viparjaya. No doubt, no faulty understanding. Buddhya aham brahmasmi. Then that pure buddhi is like what? I am myself is Brahman. Iti Vedanta vakya janyaya buddhi vritya yukta. Then yukta word visuddhaya yukta. What kind of things? He has heard the Vedanta vakyas. Tattvamasi aham brahmasmi. And as a result of that vakyajanya buddhi, there is a meditation on it. He's continuing. That vichara buddhi vritya yukta. That is his yoga. He's not doing asana pranayama. He has done it already. He's doing vicharana all the time. That is his yoga. Sada tad anvitaha dhritya. And then, in compliance of that vichara buddhi, tad anvita dhritya. What is that dhriti? By this dhriti, what kind of dhriti is it? Dharyena atmanam. With that patience, that resolve, atmanam. Sarira indriya sanghatam. What is that atma? Atma here is antagan. Sarira indriya sanghata. Sukshma stula, the whole thing, the physical mind body complex. Niyam mein he controls it. Unamarga pravrittehe nivarya. And there he doesn't allow his mind body complex to delve into anything which is beyond the Lakshman Rekha of what is a good yogic life. Atma pravanam. Okay, that is what Yoga Sutra again comes in, right? The mind will go either in a wrong direction or in a right direction. It can never be still. Either you do punya, otherwise papa will happen. You don't have to do papa. That is our swabhava. Continuously it will happen. It will take you here, there. Therefore, this unmaga prabriti nivarya controls his mind from doing or trespassing his moral universe. Can he be there? He says, "नहीं, मैं कोई खराब काम नहीं करूँगा, खराब हो ही जाएगा." That is why Uparama was discussed, if you remember some Vedantis, that you do your Swadharma, come back to your Upasana, otherwise you cannot hold back. This fellow is Atma Pravanam. Atma Pravanaha. So he is focused on the Brahma, the Atma Tattva Vichara, Kritva. Cha Savadena Yoga Sastroktam Sadhanantaram Samuchiyate. All the sadhanas we did in the sixth chapter, the Savitarka, Nirvitarka, Savichara, Nirvichara, Sasmita, Sananda, right? All the samadhis. Then you have some Pragyata, Ritambara Pragya, Dharmamegha. All that you finally reach that ultimate thing, Nirudha Samadhi. You can also practice all that, not a bad thing. Savdadin, Savda, Sparsha, Rupa, Gandha, Rasa, Gandha, Gasan, Vishayan, Bhogena, Bandha Hetun. The moment you enjoy them, they trap you. It's like, a mosquito who enters the mosquito net to bite and take blood. What happens to it? It gets trapped in the mosquito net. So it will be killed in the morning or in the night itself. It cannot escape. So an insect goes near fire, gets burnt. So the moment we do this Visaya Bhoga, we become trapped in them. And therefore he stays out from Samarthyat Jnana Nishta Artha Sarira Sthiti Matra Prayojana Anupayuktan Nishidhan Api Tyaktva Sarira Sthiti Matrartheshu Chateshu Ragadveshu Vidvasya Paritajya. Now there are two, three things. One thing is there are certain pratibandhis, there are certain things which will devastate our spiritual sadhana. So we should avoid. That is easy. We can identify not to it. But there are many things which are not very bad. Shastra doesn't say are bad. Shastra doesn't say you should not watch a cricket match. Shastra doesn't say you will not read a book. Shastra doesn't say you will not take walk in a garden for a longer time. It doesn't say anything. But once we develop attachment to these things, they become distractions. There's nothing adharmic about these things. But we need to sort of orient our mind towards what we are interested in ultimately. That is what the Shastra says. So only to sort of hold the body, what is the minimum requirement, then he does that. All other things, he is not interested. Chakarat anya devi jnana vikshepakam. Anything which can create distraction, vikshepa, scattering of the brain, parityajya, he drops them. Vivikta sevitva, sevi ityatra. So he becomes fond of isolation. He has to do his sadhana. Syad iti adhyahritena brahma bhuyaya kalapate iti anena va anvayaha. So he becomes vivikta sevi. He sits in meditation, goes to a place, maybe a cave, maybe an ashram, maybe he has a house of his own, wherever, but he isolates himself, maintains a bit of physical distance to focus on his inner life. Now, what is the next verse? Vivikta sevi lagvasi yata vakaya manasa dhyana yoga parvo nityam vairagyam samapasritaha. 52nd verse is explaining here. Viviktam jana samardha rahitam. Samardha is, the hustle bustle, you just get into a metro train in the peak hours, you know what it is. You don't even know you exist, right? I'm talking about Delhi. It's so packed, you don't know. I mean, things are worse in China and Japan. They push, right? So absolutely, you don't have an inch to stand. So there, even you forget. Do you have an individual existence? You have pure Vedantic experience because you can get pickpocketed easily. You don't know where is your purse. You don't even know where is your leg. How to move forward. This kind of a crowd. So he stays away from the Jana Samardha Rahitam, away from this crowding. Pavitram cha yad aranya giri guhadi tat sevitam. He goes to a river, he goes to some natural location away from a crowd. It becomes very, very difficult these days, even the fact that we have too many people everywhere virtually. Tat sevitum shilam jasya saha chitta ekagriya sampatyartham. So because he wants that ekagrata, he needs that concentration. Therefore, he has to go to a location which is slightly away from all of the places. That biksheva kari rahita ityarthaha. And therefore, whatever reduces the biksheva, a scattering, he chooses that kind of spot. Lagvasi, what is he has less of desire. What is it? Laghu parimitam, hitam, medhyam, cha asitum shilam jasya saha. So, and therefore, he doesn't take too much of food. He demands a very limited. He's happy with what he gets. He doesn't want to complicate his life. He removes all the clutter. Saha nidra alasya, alasyadi chittalaya rahita ityartha, and doesn't sleep too much, and he doesn't have alasya and stuff like that. He doesn't have craving for anything. He doesn't want to take advantage of the situation to please his self. He knows that pleasing the self is essentially pleasing the lower self, and he's going to go down there. He doesn't want to suffer that. Yatani sanyatani. Yata vakaya manasa is explaining this. Yatani means जो यत्न से भरा हुआ है. Yatani sanyatani, discipline. Vakaya manasani yena saha. The person who has discipline. I think again this Chinese thing. A Chinese friend of mine was telling that somewhere. I think the Laozi has said that as a young man, I learned to how to have a soft tongue, how to speak nicely. But later on, I had a soft pair of ears. I can hear a lot of things, but neither I spoke harshly. I could just absorb a lot of things. So you have to have soft ears. A lot of things will come. You will not be hurt. You just hear them. You don't get affected by that. Okay. So sadhana sampanna yama niyama asanadi sadhana sampanna ityarthaha yata vakaya manasaha. This vakaya is there, so you can include asana. Vak, so you speak what is required, and a manasaha, mental discipline. So he's a yogi. He's doing a lot of yogi. Manonasa is doing. Dhyana yogo paro nityam chittasya atmakara pratya abritir dhyana. So, what is abriti is abhyasa. Again and again, you're meditating on the self, doing vicharana and the Vedanta vakyas for hours together. And slowly the mind matures and a lot of clutter kind of fall off our consciousness. Atmakara pratyena. So, when you have this atmakara vritti, nibritika tapadanam yoga. So, what is that nibritika? Tapadanam. So, what is that? Having that ability to dissociate, disconnect, and reorient our consciousness towards the self. That is what is yoga here. Slight difference between this and the Yoga Sastra Yoga. What is the difference? Here, the meditation is what is your nature of yourself. So, these yoga techniques will be there, but there is one additional thing. There is a jnana component which is predominantly very powerful. Without that jnana element, disciplining the mind is not reliable. That is what Vedanta says. So you do yoga, temporary relief, yes. It's like somebody is very depressed, not happy, bad relationship, bad job situation. Okay, you give him a painkiller or sleeping pill. He sleeps for a few hours. He wakes up. What happens? He was very happy. It's good for emergency management. He wakes up. The problems are unresolved. They come back to haunt him. But then he sits and analyzes, he draws a course of action. I'm going to do this and this and this. Once he has that new understanding, he doesn't need that sleeping pill, but he can still take it. The doctor might say, okay, take the sleeping pill for a while. But then he has a new understanding, he has a new way forward. Then he's in a much better position. The Vedanta approach is that we need to resolve our understanding, redraw the contours, understand what it is. With that new understanding, we can move, and that's much easier, that's more sustainable. It's longer in terms of time and effort. It's not magical. You do not become a person with a lot of occult power. You're just a very common person, but you are happier, you're simpler, and there's internal coherence, internal balance. That balance is not something which is out of nothing. It's based on the perennial truth, is propagated, explained, discussed in the Upanishads. Now, if you're interested in that, they will say, okay, practice this. Dhyana yoga paro nitya chityasya atmakara pratyaya abriti dhyanam atmakara pratyayena nibritikata padanam apadanam yoga nityam. What is that nitya? Sadeva tat paraha kayor anusthana paro natu mantra japadi mantra japa tirtha yatradi paraha kadachit ityarthaha. Now, you might just get a little confused here because he's saying he's finding nityam vairagyam samupasritaha. He's doing dhyana yoga and nityam vairagyam samupasritaha. So he's always established himself in that nitya vairagya. And Madhusudana Saraswati is saying something which might frighten quite a few of us. What about Guru Mantra Japa? You should not do it. He's saying Mantra Japa, Tirtha Yatradi Paraha, Kadachi Tirtha. He doesn't do all this. I mean, are you saying all sadhus do Tirtha Yatra and do Mantra Japa, and also they do. Why do you say they will not do it? Because Sankaracharya has also said it. So, it's like there is Kabir Panthi that Pani me, me ne piyasi. The fish is thirsty when it's swimming in the river. It goes to all the mosques and the temples, runs around, but doesn't know that you have to find the self within. He's talking about a very high stage here. The mantra japa, tirtha yatra for just spending time on, that's for an intermediate state. But once a person has reached there, many of the saints, they take Kshetra sannyasa. They don't have any craving to go anywhere. You look at Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Did he even come to Puri? No, mother came. He didn't come to Puri. He didn't go anywhere actually. He was all the time there. He was happy. People came, not came. He was not bothered. So Ramana Maharshi, did he do any Tirthayatra? Did he do any mantra japa? No. So people who are established at that ultimate stage in their abadhutas, they actually don't need any of this. But doesn't mean mantra japa and Tirthayatra are completely meaningless. No, they are meaningful. But depends on where we are. Okay, so these are all useful things, provided we have not reached there. Once you reach there, they'll follow you on their own. Vairagyam drishta drishta viseshu spriha virodhi chitta parinamam upasritaha. And what is that vairagya? Drishta and adrishta. So if you do a lot of physical exercise, you will have very good muscles. Oh, I'm sorry, I have crossed the time limit. We'll stop here, not a problem. As a little commentary on the 53, we'll do that and we'll move forward. I'm sorry for exceeding the time limit. So we will, if you have any questions you can ask, we can do this something first.